Okay, today we're going to talk about projects and how you collect artist royalties, producer royalties, manager royalties, or investor royalties, anything that's not publishing. Things that are different than publishing are handled in the projects file. So I'm going to teach you how to do that today. So we're on Twyla Paris here. And I'm going to go to project. So we have a project button. I'm going to click the project button. That's going to take me over there. And it shows me a long list of all the projects. Well, I want to create a new project. I suggest that in most cases, you're going to want to create a new project for every song that you're going to pay royalties to for artists, for example, or producers. If you're not just a publisher, if you're a record company as well, and you want to keep track and pay royalties through the royalty file here, you have to keep these points or the percentages that each artist has assigned to their contract. You want to track that in the royalty file. I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to create a new project. So each title of each song would be a new project. Now, you can do multiple things in the project task file, such as keep track of to-do lists, keep track of projects, bill of materials, things that a lot of you won't use. And that's when you would use the project task file as well. But when you're just doing royalties for managers, for artists, producers, etc., you're just going to need the project file here. You'll still have them all open up in the morning when you open your files, but you'll just pay attention to this project file. So first thing we're going to do is go up here to the plus button and create a new project. Notice it creates a blank record here, and we're going to, it automatically will number it. So that's a number you don't want to change. If you got to change that number, then I would do it right in the beginning. Otherwise, you can't change it once you enter other data. So keep that. And let's add a song title. You could do it by a CD or an album too, if you're only getting royalties for albums and stuff and people are sending you that. But these days with digital distribution, royalty statements are normally broken down by the song. So it really depends on what you're going to get on your royalty statements, but I would say most people are going to get a list of songs that there's a royalty due on. Okay, so if you're, one suggestion might be to write song underscore and then the title of the song. For example, I Love You would be a title. Okay, that way when you sort out your projects here with the sort button, all your titles would come up under song and they'd be listed in order. That's just one idea. You could just list the song name too. You don't have to have that. You could just do it like that, and then they would all be in order of your song titles. That may be easier to you. Whatever you call it, stick with it, keep it that way. But for now, I'm just going to do this. That's one example, one way you could do it to keep track of your songs in there. All right. So this is a master. It could be part of an album or a single. It could be a single. I'm going to call it a master. It's a master recording. You can put notes in here if you need to, but I don't think you need to. This is basic. Okay, I clicked the points button up here, and it takes me to this other screen. I was here on this. If you get somewhere you don't know where you are, just click on points. And that's going to take you with the title of the song, some fields, and then there's places where you can list the people who are going to get points or percentages. We call it points here. Normally they do in the record business, as you know. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is if I'm selling this on iTunes for $1, for example, I'm going to collect $1, or maybe it's going to be 70 cents or 60 cents, whatever iTunes sends you, or TuneCore, whatever you're going to get your statement from. When you receive money for one sale of a song, you can put in that factor. It might be 60 cents, 70 cents, whatever comes in. But I'm going to set it at $1 for now for a song, just to make it easy for you to understand what we're entering royalty-wise. And you may have a different collection amount than you do a payment factor. Your collection amount might be $1, for example. Say you sell them for $1.29 on iTunes and you get $1 as your deal. Okay. But your payment factor may be that you get 10% out and it's just 90 cents. So then you would put in 90 cents. So all royalties are based on this factor. If they're the same, then just put in $1 here, or whatever the amount is that the payments are going to be factored and calculated. So if the artist gets 10%, what are they getting 10% of? On the payment or the collection? It gives you two fields. You need to enter them both for each song. So this is probably going to be the same for all your songs. So I'm just going to put in $1 for now. You can change that according to what your deal is with your distributor, etc. All right, now we click in here and you'll notice it says artist domestic, producer domestic. Other domestic is for things like people like managers or an investor who puts up money that gets a percentage. Anybody else that's going to get a percentage or a point, as we would call it. Domestic for United States sales, or if you're in England, then it would be English sales. We also have foreign for all your foreign. So you could stipulate, and you should stipulate. We're going to do domestic first. So this is, we'll click domestic, and I'm going to click domestic here, and I'm going to pick an artist. I'm going to pick Twyla Fabulous, since we've used her as a sample record before. And then I want to assign her contract, and here's her staff deal, which also has her artist royalties come in. Now, you notice these were automatically looked up. That was looked up because you had entered that information in under the contract number, this contract number. You'd put in Twyla's domestic points or percentages and her foreign. Now, these both look up automatically as a default, but we're only allowed to have one. We're not supposed to put foreign points here if it's a domestic one. So let's just click here and it'll say, hey, alert, a domestic percentage has already been entered. You need to take this foreign one out. It's just alerting you. So it highlights it. I'm going to hit delete and get rid of that. It was 12. So now I'm going to do also a domestic producer. That would be a domestic entry. We're tracking all the people who are going to make money non-publishing off of this sale of this song here. So let's do, what do you say we do Martin Records? George Martin is the producer, for example. It automatically brought in his contract because he only had one contract, so it was easy for it to find. Brought in his rate. This is domestic that we're doing, so let's get rid of this, the foreign. We'll delete that, and now we'll do the foreign for those two. We're going to do artist foreign so that we can collect foreign as well. Click foreign. Click fabulous. Specify her contract. There it is. And it brings in the rates, and there's 12. I'm going to delete the domestic. See, this column here is domestic, and this is foreign. This is done to keep it organized. And then we're going to do producer foreign because we want to track those. All right. Let's do Martin Record Production. Okay, it brought in his. And let's get rid of this. It's saying a foreign percentage has already been entered. Domestic percentages require their own separate entry line. Please delete this. Okay, so we're going to hit the delete key. Now we're set up properly. All right, this is the art. We can put in, this is artist royalties. This is producer. Let's assign this. This is artist, and this is producer. Worldwide territory, you can change that if you want. If you have questions about foreign territory, specific, etc., then you should refer to the tutorial on licensing. It's all handled the same way. I'm not going to go into that. We'll just put worldwide in here to keep it simple. And we have it down as a master. So I filled in all these fields. The default discount, that can be left out. That would only be in special cases where you want, you have a special deal where you do a 25% discount, for example, on everything, off of everything that's on the statement then you could put the default here and it would look up that discount if you have special 3/4 rates or something like that. Otherwise, leave it blank. Now, click on More. And you'll notice the contracts brought in some reserve amounts. Now, if you don't click these boxes, it will not track the reserves. It'll bring them in, but it won't deduct money for them. If you wish to deduct money for them, let's just do it on the foreign. Let's say on Twyla's only. Okay, we'll do it there. So it's holding a 25% reserve. Notice there is no reserve for the producer anyway. So we're just going to check this one. On her domestic stuff, she's going to get paid immediately, for example. If not, you just click that, and that will track it. All right, now to go back, just click back, and now it's all set up properly. Now, if you're not responsible for paying a royalty statement on George Martin, for example, you would click this, and then it would not create a line item where you would create a royalty statement. It wouldn't allow you to create a royalty statement. This is just a checkbox that prevents you from paying somebody inadvertently that you're not supposed to pay. So if you had a bunch of artists listed here, you could list them all and then click this if you're not responsible to pay them their royalty. It just gives you an opportunity to see all the different points that people are getting on the song. Anyway, I'm going to uncheck this because we're going to pay both of them. So it's just these two screens to set up the points, more and back. All right, now we're done setting this up. We have $1 in each. Now we're ready to collect money for this song. So you would do this for each song. Set up your artist royalties, go through and preset them all before you get your royalty statement in. Then once you get your royalty statement in, you're ready to do what's called a collection. This is the same as it's done in licensing. So click the collection button. It takes you to the collection screen for this project. Here's the project, the song I Love You. Okay, it continued to bring in everything we had entered before. We must have a agreed unit price collection and a unit price for payment. They could be the same as I stated before. Okay, now we receive a statement from TuneCore or iTunes or wherever, and we click in here and we're going to type their statement number. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll press the tab key. It goes to the next field, and let's choose domestic. We're going to do domestic entries. If domestic and foreign are all on the same royalty statement, you're going to have to specify them as foreign or domestic. Okay, so remember to do that. So let's say this is from USA, and let's keep it simple. Let's say there's 1,000 records or 1,000 downloads sold, and as I press sold, it's going to enter an amount. So it brought in $1,000. So basically, it took this collection amount of $1, multiplied it by 1,000 to give you your collection. Now, if there's a foreign exchange rate, you could put that here at the beginning, and all subsequent entries would automatically include that. For example, if it's a 0.95 foreign exchange rate, well, it won't do anything because if you have a foreign exchange rate, you wouldn't normally have one on a domestic, so you wouldn't put that in there anyway. But say you had a Harry Fox rate, a commission of 10%, for example. It would take 10% out of the figure. In other words, up here allows you to do it in a global fashion where you could type that 10 in there, and for every subsequent record that you enter, it will remember to put that in for you. And at any time, you can go through and change those. Now, the foreign's only going to really should be affected only on foreign royalties, not domestic. So be sure you check for that. To keep it simple, I'm going to take that out. It's $1,000. Let's say there's a fee that you're charging, or not that you're charging, but they're charging you. Let's say it's a $10 administration fee for something. You could, if that's the case, you could put that in there and it deducts it. And that's what you would pay royalties on because you had to pay a $10 administration fee. So you would pay out, instead of on 1,000, you'd pay out on 990. But just to keep this simple, we're going to take that out. I'll delete that. And that keeps it 1,000. Just keeps it easy for you to keep track of what I'm doing. All right, we're also going to do a foreign on this song. We're also going to do a foreign entry. Click foreign here. I'm going to say it could be Argentina or it could just be worldwide, we'll say. And let's say 5,000 copies were downloaded. Press enter. Now, here on this foreign, you might have a foreign exchange rate. If so, put it in there. It could be where it's in your favor, or maybe it's not. 0.95, for example. And notice it recalculates it. I'm going to take that out, but you know how to use that now. Same with this, we'll take out. Same as in the licensing file. It allows you to deduct commissions. It allows you to take foreign exchange rate out for foreign, and then domestic like Harry Fox rate, etc. If you need to take something out that doesn't show up on your statement. We'll keep it simple for now. All right, now we're done with collections. We've brought in a total of $6,000 from, looks like 6,000 downloads. Okay, so now we want to do what's called a payout. Same as in the licensing file for publishing. So click the payout button. Takes you to that familiar screen that's same as in the licensing file. It's all done the same way. So if you've learned the licensing file, you should understand how to do this. Basically, this green field here is also a button. See it highlight? I didn't. Okay, now I'm going to, when I click this, it's going to take all the domestic people and it's going to assign their royalties down here. It'll create a relationship, which it'll put in here, relationship of words and numbers together so that it knows that it's the right person. Let's click on this 1,000 is the first entry. Boom. Let's create it. Yes, I want it to create the royalties. Depending on the version of FileMaker you're using, sometimes these annoying dialogues will come up. I just hit my enter key real quick and then I'm through them. It's just going through each field that it's entering. Okay, click off of it. Now, depending on the version of FileMaker, sometimes it won't bring in the last one. Notice if I click on Twyla Fabulous, it brought in 1,000. But on the last one, it doesn't always bring it in. So be sure to check your quantity on the last one and type that in so that the royalty comes in correct. Now, this is domestic, so we don't have any reserves. It says there's a reserve amount, but because this isn't checked, it's not deducting for reserves. Watch if I click this. It deducts it. But I wasn't specifying that I wanted to deduct that, so I don't want that. You do have the choice to do it manually like that. So that's what this checkbox is. That makes this active. The pending means that's a pending royalty statement item that has not been assigned to a royalty statement yet, which we will do in this tutorial later. Okay, so by clicking on these two domestic, you'll be able to now see the two entries. Notice how it changes this field, the number of the contract, artist domestic. Now it'll say producer, the contract number, the producer, and domestic, so that you know it's the correct information that we just deducted. So here's $50 for George Martin. He got 5% of 1,000. That's $50. Okay, click on this. It's $120, 15%. All right. We're done with that. Now let's do the foreign. Here's a foreign entry we also need to assign. So you have to manually click this button. And let's create them. And again, hit your enter key, or you can click the OK button multiple times, but it's just easy to hit enter real quick and go through them. All right, now you want to check your last entry because the last entry has to be done manually. So it was 5,000 quantity. Type in there. If it doesn't enter, type it. Now you can go check these. Let's check Twyla. Notice it did 5,000 for Twyla, and we entered the the last entry. So if you had 5 people in here, it will probably do the first 4, and the last one it may not do. That's a FileMaker thing that we're trying to get around these days. And so just wanted to let you know, if it doesn't enter, go ahead and enter that and type it in manually. And it will calculate automatically for you. So you can go through these and look at the different amounts that were collected. These are your royalties that are waiting for a future royalty statement, and that's why they say pending. Our statement number. So once you've assigned it, it'll put that statement number in here in the future. And then it will not be able to be assigned twice to a royalty statement. Also, once you've collected these amounts, you can't recollect them. There is a button here. If you make a serious mistake and need to uncheck this and redo it, you can uncheck that button, but you're not supposed to. This is a messy screen. It's a developer screen. So I'm not going to get into that because you're really not supposed to do that. But that would allow you to uncheck that and reassign that if something screwed up. But you'd have to go through and delete the records that came in. So that gets a little hairy, and we don't want to go there. So in general, this prevents you from entering them twice. It says this has already been marked as paid out. You can't redo it. Okay, so now we've created our royalties. Now we can go to the paid out if you need to. We'll click paid out. This gives you more of a global look where you can just click on the person and show all their royalties. 5,000. So notice that this was the one we clicked. You can uncheck that, and it changes the amount to 150. That's why it was reduced to 120, because we had preset that to enter as reserves. So we're only paying on 80% of that amount right now. And then you would use the reserve feature in the royalty file, which we go into under royalty tutorials, as well as licensing. It'll talk about that, those tutorials. So review those if you're not sure what that is. We're not going to cover reserves much in this tutorial. So basically, we're done. Now, you may not pay this money right now. You might pay it out 3 months from now, or 6 months from now, or a year from now, depending on your contract and the deal you have with the artist or producer or manager, etc. But all the items have been set up as pending items, so you're ready to pay them. They're in your system at the time you receive your statement. So always do your collections and your payouts at the same time. It's going to save you having to remember to do them. And with all that's going on these days, it's a good strategy. So that's it. We're going to go over to royalty now and show you how these are assigned. I'm going to go up and click the royalty button. And there's a fabulous, already made a royalty. But let's create a new one just so you can see how that's done. I'm going to go up and click the plus button here. Twyla Fabulous, I'm going to click her. I must assign a period ending date. I'm just going to do it for today because I just created it, so I know it's today, but it might be the end of a month or end of a quarter, end of a year. It must have a period ending date to be able to gather that data correctly. And then the other thing is you should have assign a contract for Twyla Fabulous. There it is. And that handles stuff like carry forward items, money that may still be owed to the artist, or it allows you to adjust for advances that you've already paid Twyla, for example, your artist or manager, etc. Lets you track that. And that is handled in our other royalty tutorials. But that you always need a contract and a period ending at very least. You could do a period from and a period end, etc. Also, you need domestic or foreign, because each royalty statement, each person that's getting paid will have 2 royalty statements. They'll have a foreign royalty statement each quarter and a domestic. So you have 2 of them to do. You can put in artist here if you want. It's all up to you. You can put in contract information. You don't have to. The minimum is the period end, the contract number. We need to make sure that's assigned. Okay. Now we're ready to collect royalties. To do so, this big button here, now choose from outstanding royalty items. And there they are. This is for Twyla. Now we're doing a domestic. Notice the domestic only. Let's click manual. And then you go up and you could click the number of line items you wish to assign to this. I'm just going to, it says it's explaining it with a little tutorial. Now I'm going to click on this. It's explaining that you click on it first and then you hit the continue button second. I'm going to click on that anywhere on that line. Notice it assigned it. Now I must click the continue button for it to continue and come back. All right. So now we've just created her domestic artist or royalty statement. Let's do one for George Martin, for example. All production, George Martin. That's why we name these contracts so that we can recognize which is the correct one. So now we've assigned that. We need a ending date. I'll just do today's date. You can change it to producer, for example. All right, now we're ready to assign his. Just click the button here. There's a couple in there. There was one in there I was experimenting earlier, so there's actually two, but should be one. So manual, I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to click on just the one I want. Let's say it's 5%. Yeah, one may be foreign, I don't remember. And then click the continue button. Notice it brought the item in. Now we're ready to, here's this 5% share for, it tells you the song. And then you could just click this button, or in order to, these two buttons do the current record. In other words, this person only. If you wanted to print a bunch of documents, the royalty statements out, you would go to here and use the report screen. But I'm just going to show you this one. Now it's giving you a warning that there's a carry forward amount. It does not equal the balance due. So you could go, you might have an advance or a carry forward amount that you could use instead of writing a check to George. So that's helpful. And if you want to go to that, you can. But let's click ignore, and there's the statement for $50. You would print that out and send it with your check. Now, if you had a carry forward amount or an advance you want to apply towards this royalty statement, you'd want to go to that and handle that. That is covered in our royalty tutorial, video tutorial. Okay, and then you'd click continue, hit print, and print it out as many copies as you need. I'm going to click done. Goes back to the long list. There's the royalty. I'm done. I want to go back to either projects or people. So then I'd go on to the next song. Actually, I'd probably enter all my songs first and have all the projects in here, and then you're just ready to go to the next song. Click on it. Be sure to go ahead and enter the points for each song like you did on this one. Click on the points button and make sure all this data is entered for each song in your catalog that you're going to pay out artist or producer royalties for, etc. Now, just a couple housekeeping items that I wanted to run by that I didn't cover is the button structure. If you didn't see your buttons, you may have been in the next scenario where you didn't see the collection button or the payout. So if that happened, apologies in the tutorial, but you want to click that to show those buttons. I'm sure you found that by now. The other thing we didn't cover is the deposit. If you want to do bank deposits, you can. You would click on the song and then click points. Actually, you could go to PayOut. You could be anywhere. As long as you're on the song, then you click deposits. You'll see the deposits are here. And if you want to track a deposit to your bank account, you can. You would click on that. And if you want to do an auto deposit, it just click auto and it puts it in. You can put your transaction number in there if you wish. And it just keeps a record for you that you've already actually brought it in. Now you can write that you've already deposited it. For example, you could put TuneCore here and or iTunes, etc., wherever it's from, and you could remember where the money came from that way. You could put a date in there if you wish, or a statement number, whatever. It just allows you to track that you've. Now that deposit button doesn't do anything. That's for a different accounting package, Biz Basics. But you don't click that. That just shows you that's a deposit. And it put it down here. So it just keeps a record. It sends it to the payment file. Put it in the payment file as a deposit, see, from a collection. So it allows you to track that in your payment file. That way you have all your payments, deposits, checks, etc. in here. You could change that to electric, I should say, transfer, electronic transfer, however you want to do it. You can also add your own items in there if you want. Just click edit to change them. But that's it. And that should cover the items that I forgot during the tutorial. I think that covers everything. And hope that's helpful to you. All right. I'm just going to go back to people, take you back to familiar territory or home base. There you go. All right. Have a good day. Thanks.